Hi everyone. So we are moving on from solving quadratics by factoring, and we're going to use a different method today. It's actually a little easier. All right, start with a review of factoring. All right, so I'm going to factor this first one. This is a GCF. So we got 3x squared. Wow, that's a really wide marker. And I get 4 minus 7x to the third. I think the one I have on I think this is different. I'm pretty sure yours is probably different. All right, so whatever. Number 2, that's a slide. So we're multiply 5 times -4, multiply to -20, combine to 8. That is 2 times 10 with a -2. 5x, 5x, minus 2 plus 10. Divide. And we get 5x minus 2, x plus 2. That's it. Okay, so now a quick review of solving. So solve by factoring, what we've been working on for like a week and a half. So pause the video, do them on your own. All right, number 1, that's a multiply combine. So we get x minus 16, x plus 2 equals 0. X minus 16 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. So we get 16 and -2. Number 2, where you need to subtract the 9, because remember, you always need 0 on one side. And like before, we need to, it's a regular factoring problem, MC chart. So multiply to 9, combine to 8, so that's 9 and 1. And my 9 is positive to give me a positive 8. So we get x equals 1 and x equals -9. Number 3, again, we need to get 0 on one side, so I'm going to subtract 81. 4x squared minus 81 equals 0. That's a dots. I have perfect squares and subtraction. 2x plus 9, 2x minus 9 equals 0. So I get x is -9 over 2, and x equals 9 over 2. In this last one, I'm going to subtract x squared, and I'm going to add 6. So now I have 0, 7x squared. Now the 6 and the 23 don't go together, so we're just going to rewrite them. So now this is a slide. This is about as hard as it gets. 7x, 7x. We are multiplying to 42, combining to 23, and it's 2 and 21, and they're both minus, so minus 2, minus 21. This one I can divide by 7, 7x minus 2 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. So we get x equals 3 and x equals 2 over 7. If you're still struggling with this, you need to go back. We're having a quiz soon. Okay, so today we're going to talk about solving in a different way. I just thought, if there's an easier way from friends. Okay, so we're not going to write this down. Notice it's not in the notes. I just want you to think about it. What is the process for solving? X plus 5 equals 11. We subtract, right? We do minus 5 on both sides. Why do we do minus 5? The opposite of plus is minus, right? Or the inverse. How about 2x equals 10? What do? We divide by 2. Why do we divide? Because these are multiplying. The inverse or opposite of times is division. This one down here, it's minus 9, so it's plus 9. We do the opposite operation. Divide by 3, we multiply by 3. So you always are doing the inverse operation or the opposite operation. All right, so now we're squaring numbers, right? We're dealing with numbers that have x squareds. So what's 3 squared? 3 squared is 9. What's the opposite of squaring something? What can I do to 9 to get back to 3? The square root. The inverse or opposite of squaring a number is taking the square root. So we're going to use this idea to solve. So instead of factoring, we're just going to use a square root to solve. But there's only very specific instances when we're allowed to do this. Okay, so the only time we can do this is if we have an x squared by itself. So see in number 1, we have x squared equals 36. So the opposite of squaring something is square rooting it. So I'm going to square root both sides. Square root of x squared is just x. The square root of 36 is 6. However, here's the thing. There's another answer. What's the other answer? What else squared gives you 36? Negative. So whenever you take the square root of x squared, you have to put a plus and a minus every single time. Anytime you take the square root of x squared, you have to put plus or minus x, right? Very, 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 very important. So what we're going to do is we're going to isolate our x squared and then take the square root of both sides. So for number 2, we're going to get x squared by itself by adding 49. X squared equals 49. And then we're going to do the square root of both sides. X equals plus or minus the square root of 49 is 7. That's it. So, I mean, you could put x equals 7, x equals negative 7, but usually we just do plus or minus. It's easier. Now, this one looks really hard, but it's not, I promise. We're going to divide by 81. We want to isolate our x squared. So divide both sides by 81. And I'm just going to leave it 100 over 81. Take the square root of both sides. X equals plus or minus, what's the square root of 100? 10. And the square root of 81? 9. And that's it. All right, try this next one on your own. It is the hard one, but I have confidence. Get everything to one side of the equal sign. Get everything to the one side. So I'm going to subtract 6x squared. I'm going to subtract 6x squared. I'm going to subtract 7x. Actually, I lied. I'm not going to move everything. I'm just going to move those. So I have 118 equals 7x minus 7x cancels. 4x squared minus 3. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I got 4x squared equals 121. Divide by 4. X squared equals 121 over 4. Square root of both sides. The square root of 121 is 11. The square root of 4 is 2. A little tricky, but we can do it. All right, so now, similar idea, getting a little harder. So now, see how we have parentheses? So a lot of kids try to multiply that out. We're not. That parentheses is all by itself. Yes, there's stuff on the inside, but because once the parentheses squared, there's nothing outside it on that side of the equal sign, we can take the square root. So what we're going to do is take the square root of both sides, and we get x minus 3 equals, now it's the square root of 9, 3, but don't forget we have to do plus or minus. Plus or minus. Now we're going to add 3 to both sides, but here's the trick. This is a little tricky. You're not allowed to add the 3's together. We're going to write it as 3 plus or minus 3. I know that's weird. We're going to write the 3 in front. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, I have 3 plus 3. What's 3 plus 3? 6. And then 3 minus 3. We'll change colors. So then we have 3 minus 3 is 0. So those are our two answers, 0 and 6. All right, try this next one. Start it off at the very least. So I have my square root by my parentheses by itself. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. X plus 5 equals plus or minus 4. I'm going to subtract the 5, and it just goes in front. Minus 5, it goes in front. X equals negative 5 plus or minus 4. So then the top, I have negative 5 plus 4. Negative 5 plus 4 gives me negative 1. And then I have negative 5 minus 4. Negative 5 minus 4 is negative 9. So those are our two answers. All right, next one. So now here, notice we have this 3 in front. So this is where we need to isolate. So we're going to divide to get our parentheses by itself. Divide both sides by 3. X plus 11 squared equals 75 divided by 3 is 25. All right, now pause it and finish this. You can do this one on your own now. Square root, x plus 11 equals plus or minus 5. I'm going to subtract 11 on both sides. So negative 11 plus or minus 5. Negative 11 plus 5 is negative 6. Negative 11 minus 5 is negative 16. And those are our answers. All right, last one on the slide. Again, start by dividing. I'm going to divide that negative 8. X minus 1 squared equals 4. Now pause it and finish it. Square root of both sides. X minus 1 equals plus or minus 2. I'm going to move the 1 to the other side. So 1 plus or minus 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. And we're done. All right, so now here's some practice. These are a little harder, but I have confidence. Try them on your own. Pause the video. All right. Also, I want you to draw a happy face next to number 12. Draw a happy face next to number 12 so I know you're listening. All right, so I have x plus 8 squared equals 49. I added the 1. Square root of both sides. X plus 8 equals plus or minus 7. The square root of 49 is 7. I'm going to subtract the 8 on both sides. Negative 8 plus or minus 7. Negative 8 plus 7 is negative 1. Negative 8 minus 7 is negative 15. Done. Number 10, we're going to subtract our 3 on both sides. X minus 7 squared equals 25. Square root. X minus 7 equals plus or minus 5. Add 7. X equals 7 plus or minus 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. 7 minus 5 is positive 2. Whew. Okay. Number 11. All right, I'm going to add 5. Negative 2 times x plus 5 squared equals negative 242. And we're going to divide by negative 2. X plus 5 squared equals 121. Square root of both sides. X plus 5 equals plus or minus 11. Subtract 5. Negative 5 plus or minus 11. Negative 5 plus 11 is 6. Minus 11. I already had one like that, didn't I, on the other page? 6 and 16. All right, last one like this for now. All right, minus 11. Remember, we always add and subtract before we divide. Let's see, that's 324 divided by 4. X minus 9 squared equals 81. Ooh, lots of 9s in this one then. Square root x minus 9 equals plus or minus square root of 81 is 9. Add 9. So 9 plus or minus 9. So we get 18, 9 plus 9, and 9 minus 9 is 0. And we are done. Okay, so that's about half the lesson. So if you guys are at home watching, I want you to take a break because this is kind of a longer lesson. Pause the video, go get a drink, go to the bathroom. Okay, so now we're going to go into the second half of the lesson. I'm going to do a quick review of perfect squares. So we were dealing with a lot of perfect squares in the previously. So let's go through and write them all down. So 1 squared is 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, I lost my equals, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144, 169, 144, and 225. That's not 144. Just kidding. It's 196. So we've been dealing with these because of dots, right? So I just wanted to remind you of them. Okay, what does it mean to simplify a square root? So we did this in geometry. Simplifying a square root means dividing out a perfect square that is a factor of a number under a radical. So, for example, the square root of 20 has a perfect square in it. What perfect square goes into 20? 4. 20 is 4 times 5. So we kind of take that 4 and we're going to get it out of the square root. Right? So again, we did do this last year. Okay, so kind of like we did the multiply combine chart, we're just going to do the multiply chart. So what multiplies to 24? 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. Now, which of those numbers are perfect squares? Well, 1 is a perfect square, and 4. Basically, if it's 1, it can't be simplified. So we're going to use 4. So we're going to rewrite 24 as 4 times 6. So that's root 4 times root 6. What's the square root of 4? 2. Do we know the square root of 6? No, so we just rewrite it. Done. That is simplifying a square root. Number 14. Write down everything that multiplies to 18. 1 times 18, 2 times 9, and 3 times 6. Which of those numbers are perfect squares? 1 and 9, right? Again, you want to ignore the 1. We want the biggest perfect square. So we're going to rewrite 18 as 2 times 9. I don't know the square root of 2, so I rewrite it as root 2. I do know the square root of 9. The square root of 9 is 3. And then we like to write the number outside and the front. It just looks nicer. And that's it. All right, try these two on your own. 63. So what perfect square goes into 63? 1 and 63. 2 doesn't work. 3 and 21. 4 doesn't work. 7 and 9. So 9 is our perfect square. So this is root 7 times root 9. Root 7. Oh, my pen turned off. Root 7. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 root 7. All right, now be careful with 16. A lot of kids get 16 wrong. 48. A lot of kids are like, oh, it's 4 and 12. It's not 4 and 12. There's a bigger one. What else multiplies to 48? 1 times 48. 2 times 24. 3 times 16, and 6 and 8. What's the biggest perfect square? Yes, 4 goes in there, but 16 is the biggest perfect square. So we're going to rewrite this as root 3, root 16. Now, if you did 4 and 12, it's not that it's wrong. It's not completely simplified. Oops. If you have 2 root 12, it's okay, but it's not completely right. You will lose points. So 4 root 3. All right, now what if there's a number in front of the square root? So let's see. What perfect square goes into 72? Now, a lot of kids tell me this one is 9 and 8. It is not 9 and 8. There's a bigger one other than 9. That's why I always start with 1, work your way up. 1 times 72, 2 times 36. 36 goes into 72. So this is 7 root 2 root 36. We don't know the square root of 2, but we know the square root of 36 is 6. And then these are all being multiplied, so we're going to multiply the 7 and the 6. So 42 root 2. All right, last one. 80. What perfect square goes into 80? Is it 4 and 20? A lot of kids say 4 and 20, or is there a bigger one? There is a bigger one, 5 and 16. So negative 11 root 5 root 16. I don't know the square root of 5, so we rewrite it. The square root of 16 is 4. So negative 44 root 5. Okay, so now let's get back to solving. All right, so look at number 19. This is the last page. I promise. We're done. We're done after this. All right, look at number 19. We are going to solve for x. So what do we do first? We're going to subtract the 2. So x minus 1 squared equals 13. Then what do? Square root. So x minus 1, do we know the square root of 13? We don't, so we're just going to rewrite it. Plus or minus root 13. And then we're going to put that 1 in front, add 1. X equals 1 plus or minus root 13. Now, we can't actually add the 1 plus root 13. You can't do anything there. So that's our answer. We're done. And that's what's nice about these. A lot of times, there's just no simplifying at all. All right, number 20. So what do we do first? We're going to add 7. And we get x plus 5 squared equals 28. Square root of both sides. X plus 5 equals plus or minus root 28. Subtract 5 on both sides. But there's something else we can do. What can I do to 28? 28 has a perfect square that goes into it. What perfect square goes into 28? That's 4 and 7. So root 4, root 7 is 2 root 7. So our answer is negative 5 plus or minus, instead of 28, 2 root 7. And that's our final answer. All right. Try 21 and 22 on your own. I have confidence in you. You can do it. So we're going to divide by 5. X plus 14 squared equals 10. Square root. X plus 14 equals plus or minus root 10. Subtract the 14 on both sides. X equals negative 14 plus or minus root 10. Is there a perfect square that goes into 10? 10 is 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. 1 is the only perfect square, so you can't do anything to it. We're done. Last one. We're going to subtract 1. Negative 2 times x minus 3 squared equals negative 64. Divide by negative 2. X minus 3 squared equals 32. Square root of both sides. X minus 3 equals plus or minus root 32. Add 3 to both sides. x equals 3 plus or minus root 32. Now does 32 simplify? It does. 1 times 32, 2 times 16. We got a 16 in there. So that's root 2, root 16. What's the square root of 16? 4. So we get 4 root 2. So we get 3 plus or minus 4 root 2. And that is our final answer. I know that was a don't worry. We're just going to review. We basically did the whole lesson today on, when do I see you guys? On Monday, we'll just do more review of this. This is supposed to be 16, not 15. All right. Have a fabulous day, guys.